Welcome back to the Tulsa World Sports Extra Show. I'm your host, Juwan Lee, joined this week by OU beat writer Eric Bailey, columnist Bill Haisten, and sports editor Barry Lewis. Ramping up softball, big weekend last weekend and even the week before, OU, Bedlam. Then this past weekend, the Sooners go and win the Big 12 championship. Kicking off, OU is going to be the number 2 seed this weekend in regional action. Eric, I want to kick this question to you first. Should the Sooners, winners of the last 3 national championships, be the favorite to win it again?
I wouldn't bet against them, Juwan. I think this is their time of year, the month of May going into June. Patty Gasso even said that they're beginning to look like the team she's familiar with. They looked impressive in the circle. They looked impressive at the plate and real aggressive on the base pass. I think everything's starting to come together. And I think the key to this team in this month is that the way that they have the experience. They have a lot of seniors on this team, and it's going to be important now. They got a tough draw. They got some familiar faces coming into town. Oregon's going to put up a tough test in the regionals this weekend. It's going to be interesting to see Boston as well and Cleveland State. But the number 2 seed, I think that's going to the number 2 overall seed. I think that's going to really put a little chip on their shoulder. The number 1 overall seed went to Texas, who they beat in the Big 12 championship. I just wonder if that's going to give them a little bit of motivation going into this tournament. That may be the motivation they need to push them a little bit this year too. So I really think going in, they'll be the favorite this year.
There's a lot to be said for knowing how to win. And so I think back, Eric, to the Chiefs winning it all last year when they were over the whole of the season in the NFL, maybe the 4th or 5th best team, right? But when it was winning time, Kansas City found a way to get it done because they know how to win and because they had a great head coach and there's this great mystique about them. And then so I kind of view OU in the same way. Patty Gasso, this is her time. OU knows how to win, and OU is the most comfortable of any program at Hall of Fame Stadium or Devon Park. And so, yeah, I think OU absolutely, maybe not as prohibitive a favorite as last year, certainly, but OU should be favored.
There's no reason to pick against them at this point. Very impressive last weekend, and they are very reminiscent of what the Chiefs did this past season. So I'm making OU the big favorite.
Before we move on to the next topic, Eric, I kind of want to ask you this because maybe the fans are a little intrigued about this. They go into Bedlam, they drop the first 2 games, and then they win that finale. What has really been the difference between those first 2 losses against OSU compared to what they did last week in the Big 12 tournament?
I think it's just coming together as a team and understanding that they have to play well every night. I think it was the pitching, Kelly Maxwell. She's really kind of come upon her own. I think it's understanding that you have to go to the plate. You have to go play with purpose. You can't make bad pitches against good teams. Oklahoma State in that Bedlam series, they came up swinging, and you can't make mistake pitches. And that's what was happening. They were giving them too much of the ball to hit. And that's what's going to win a national championship for Oklahoma this season. It's going to be pitching. I think the offense is going to be there. I think the defense, of course, is always going to be there. That's something that they've done well for the past 4 years. Pitching is going to be key in the postseason for Oklahoma. They're going to have to depend on Kelly Maxwell, Kirsten Deal, Carly Keeney, Nicole May, who came in the Big 12 tournament big, got the last 5 outs of the tournament. So I think pitching is going to be just extremely critical for this team to win a national championship.
Transitioning into another program that's built a legacy of winning. Barry, you were out at Bixby this morning, winners of the last 6 high school state football championships. My question to you, projecting out into the season this year, will they win their 7th straight?
Right now, I'm going to make them the favorite, but maybe not as much of a favorite as usual. Again, it's really tough to predict against the defending champion unless there's a significant reason to not pick them. And Bixby has got a lot of starting positions to fill, as I wrote about in today's paper. 17 of the 22 starting positions in offense and defense from last year's championship game will be filled by new starters this year. They do have some key players returning. It's sort of ironic. Last year they had most of their team coming back, except they had to find a new starting quarterback. And this year it's sort of like the opposite way around. Now the returning starters they do have, like quarterback Carson Kirby, that is really valuable, as well as Cord Nolan, who's just a real star on linebacker and tight end. And Broderick Shull, he's a really highly recruited offensive tackle. So they do have some really key returnees coming back, but still, that's a lot of positions to fill. But if anyone can do it, it's Bixby. As Cooper Parker, one of those returning starters, said, we don't rebuild, we reload. And so Bixby still got a lot of talent, but the gap may not be as large between Bixby and the rest of the field as it has been in the past.
Barry, 2 years ago when Bixby debuted in 6A1, they had a comparable rebuild of their, of their two deep that year. And look what they did. They outscored their opponents by 500 points, and except for that loss to Jinx, they won championship and then ran the table last year. So to me, the key is, yes, Carson Kirby comes back as an experienced junior quarterback. They've got him for 2 more years, which will give them a nice long run of Kirby brothers at the quarterback position. But to me, the key to Bixby always starts with Lauren Montgomery, and the fact that they now have been sustained at the coordinator positions with the same personnel, with Tyler Schneider on offense, with Rodney Flowers on defense for more than a decade. That's crazy to me, that they've been able to have that kind of continuity on the staff, on the best staff in the state for this amount of time. So I don't even think that the gap has lessened at all between Bixby and the rest of the field because of that leadership at the top. And Carson Kirby comes back as an experienced quarterback.
What's always impressed me about this program is there are 6th graders that are seniors now in that program that have only known state championships, and they've just been fed into this program, and they just know that they just have that championship mentality, and that's what's been built at Bixby, just winning championships. And that's been ingrained and embedded into that program. And it's just a credit to those coordinators, like Bill said. It's a credit to Lauren Montgomery and what they've created over there. And it's a blueprint for programs across the state. You want to win, you want to build something, you follow Bixby's blueprint. And it wasn't long ago we were talking about that when we looked at Jinx and we looked at Union. We looked at even at Owasso, programs like that. You pattern your programs against these powerhouses. That's what Bixby is. And it's such a special program. And somewhere out there's a 6th grader at Bixby right now that are looking up to these seniors now and thinking, I want to be where they're at. And it's just amazing how this has been created at Bixby. And I can't wait to see what happens this year over there in I want to say South Tulsa. It's actually Bixby, South Tulsa County.
Moving on to the NBA level, at the time of the recording, the OKC Thunder and Dallas Mavericks are tied 2-2 in the Western Conference semifinals. But I don't want to get you guys' opinion on that game because I want to forget that game. That was a nasty game for my Mavericks. But it was, Bill. But a couple days before this, Jokic was announced as the 3-time MVP. He got his 3rd MVP, putting him in some rare company. A lot of people thought SGA should get it, leading the Thunder to the 1st seed in the Western Conference. So what I want to do is kick this question to you, Bill. Was this season the best chance for SGA to win his first MVP?
No, this sets him up. I mean, it's always going to be a crowded field, and now Anthony Edwards has vaulted into a different place in everybody's minds, and Victor Wembanyama will, he's just getting started. So, I mean, there's going to be a crowded field for the MVP, and Shai's going to keep scoring 30 a game for several more years. He's only 25. He's just now hitting his stride. So, I mean, you got to stay healthy. You got to play 65 games. Your team has to have some level of success. So no, I don't think it was his best so far, but will it be his best that he'll ever have? No. He'll be a contender for that award for 5 or 6 or more years.
At first I thought my initial reaction was first I was shocked. I thought it would have been a lot closer vote because I thought after all Oklahoma City won, they were the number one seed in the West, and SGA's numbers were incredible, and how far he brought Oklahoma City from where a lot of people were predicting them before the season started, like as some experts were picking them 10th or 11th in the conference, and for them to finish number one and him leading the way, thought for sure that was going to be a really close vote at the very least. So I was surprised by the gap. And at first I thought, well, this will probably be his best chance to win an MVP. But the more I thought about it, I guess there's this mindset in the NBA is that you have to pay your dues. You've got to get your name out there. And so this year, after this year, his name will be out there, especially if they get to the conference finals. So I don't think I'll agree with Bill. I don't think this was his best chance. He'll have better chances moving forward now that his name is more established.
So I'm going to go against you guys' opinion and say this was SGA's best chance to win his MVP. And a lot of it has to do with what you just said, Barry. If you look at the storyline for OKC this year, a lot of people was making the case that look at where SGA took the Thunder to from last year to this year with the cast that he had. Well, now that everybody is getting exposed to the Jalen Williams, the Chet Holmgrens, it's not going to be the same storyline next year, as far as a team that's not expected to do as well as they did this year. And you look at the field that he's played against. I mean, look at Luka Doncic, 35 points and nearly averaging a triple double. Victor Wembanyama, who should have been the Defensive Player of the Year, he's only going to get better, and the Spurs are only going to get better. You look at Anthony Edwards making the jump from a good shooting guard to people already claiming that he's going to be the next Michael Jordan. I think SGA's storyline this year, and yes, he has the most 30-point games and he's very consistent at what he does, but a lot of it was built around the fact that people were not expecting the OKC Thunder to do as well this year as they did. And I think next year, if you make a first seed, okay, you're expected to do that. If you make a second seed, you're not making a huge jump from what you was. So looking at the field and looking at what the storyline around the MVP vote would be, and Jokic getting 79 of the first place votes and SGA only getting 21, that tells me that people aren't ready to give SGA that crown yet. And I think that crown will go to Luka, it'll go to the Wembanyamas, it'll go to Ant moving forward. But moving on to our rapid fire segment, my favorite segment, we're going to stay with the OKC Thunder, a rumor that's kind of been percolating around the Twitter sphere a little bit. Bill, given what we know about the Thunder right now, and it's still tied 2-2 at the time of this recording, if KD wanted a reunion with the Thunder, should they entertain that?
No. No, he'll be 30. Juwan, when on opening day, he'll be 36 this upcoming season. He'll be 36 years old. He's always unhappy. He is not a leadership type personality at all. And I saw a stat where he this upcoming season will play for his 6th head coach in 6 years. So he is a great player, a fantastic player. But he abandoned Oklahoma City only a few weeks after being just a couple of buckets shy of going back to making a second trip to the NBA Finals. And I just don't see. And plus, he just wouldn't be a fit at this point. He's a great player and a great scorer, but he's not a leadership guy. This is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's team. He's clearly defined as the leader of that team. He's a cornerstone. They don't need Kevin Durant at this point. They got enough scorers, and I don't see we're adding a 36-year-old guy to a clubhouse full of 23 and 24-year-old guys. I just don't see the value of that.
I agree with Bill that I just don't see him being a fit, and it's not like his teams have been enjoying a lot of playoff success recently. So I would vote no on that.
As much as I'd like to see it, because my son, the year after he left, bought my daughter a nice frame picture of him in a Thunder uniform. I don't think it's a good idea either. And also, here's my question too. What would be worse, him coming back to the Thunder or Lincoln Riley coming back to OU? I don't know which one would be worse. I don't think either would ever happen.
That's an interesting question. We'll have to put a pin in that. We'll have to put a pin in that for sure. Moving on to Barry's rapid fire question. Barry, can the St. Louis Cardinals turn their season around?
No, even though there are the last two nights, there are some reasons for optimism because they finally won a couple games after losing 7 in a row, but it's just not a good roster that they put together. And so I don't really see much hope of them being a contender. Probably finish similar to last year when they won 71 games, went 71 and 91. So it's just really rare for the Cardinals to have two really bad seasons in a row. It hasn't really happened in my lifetime, but it looks like that's what they're destined for.
College football, Eric, for you, OU's first season in the SEC, higher expectations, offensive coordinator Seth Luttrell or defensive coordinator Zach Alley?
I just talked about Lincoln Riley, and I'm going to bring him up again. I think the higher expectations are for Seth Luttrell. OU fans, as much as they hate Lincoln Riley now, they loved his offense. And I think it's going to be so important for Seth Luttrell to bring that offense back to those Riley standards. That was when Oklahoma was at their best. So Luttrell has the job to get this offense back to where they were at under Riley, especially going into the SEC.
All right, wrapping up the show, it's time for our parting takes. While our panelists leave us with some astute knowledge, their final take, final shot on what they want to leave our audience with for the week. Bill, we'll start with you.
So Tracy Phillips is the director of instruction at Cedar Ridge Country Club in Broken Arrow. He was a great, maybe the top ranked junior player in the country as a young man 40 some odd years ago. Went to OSU, but he had a bunch of injuries, Juwan, and eventually he just gave up golf, and he did not play for 20 years. Literally didn't swing a club for 20 years. He started playing recreationally again. He got better and better. Anyway, this week, Thursday, the PGA Championship, Tracy Phillips tees off at 11:56 a.m. in Louisville at the PGA Championship. He qualified at Frisco, Texas. He's been on a 3-year heater. He qualified for the Senior PGA Championship a couple of years ago and made the cut and made $50,000 that week. Tracy Phillips is 5'4" and 140 pounds, 61 years old, and he's playing for the first time in a major championship Thursday. And like he told me, I'm writing about Tracy for the Thursday Tulsa Road, and he said, in what other sport could a 61-year-old guy, 5'4" and 140 pounds, play for the national championship? So
Right.
keep an eye out for Tracy Phillips. If he makes the cut, it's a great story.
Barry, your parting shot.
It goes out to my alma mater, high school alma mater, Edison. The soccer team 5A won the 5A boys title last night, 2-0 over Booker T. Washington. It's the first sports title by an Edison team in 30 years, by any Edison team. Edison won a good amount of state titles. Won over 30 in its first 40 years of existence, but hadn't won any since 1994. But they finally broke through. There was a time Edison alums didn't think that Edison was ever going to win a state title again. Well, the Eagles soccer team broke through and has ended that drought. So a shout out to the Edison Eagles.
Awesome.
Way to go, TPS. My parting shot goes to someone that's behind the scenes, someone that a lot of sports fans don't know about, but has been instrumental to sports media in our city. Don Tomkowski, the sports information director at the University of Tulsa, is retiring after 40 years at TU. He's very, very important promoting the University of Tulsa. There'll be a celebration for him upcoming. And he's just been big time for all of us on this podcast. He's been someone who's been with them through Sweet 16s, through the Bill Self years, through the Nolan Richardson years, through the football bowl games, and he makes our job easier. He's been someone that's just been with us setting up interviews and even giving people rides home. He's given me a ride home sometimes. I've given him a ride home. He's helped just set up interviews with coaches, athletic directors. Nothing was too big or too small for him. If you ever needed anything, I want to wish him and his wife Gary Ann just all the best in retirement. He's one of the best. He's someone that you don't know about, but he really did a good job in promoting the University of Tulsa, and someone that we will definitely miss. And Don Tom, you've been a really good friend. I want to wish you the best in retirement. And really, honestly, your friendship is something that I truly, truly value. And thank you so much for being there through all these years. You made my job a lot easier, and I'm going to miss you, but I am going to cherish our friendship for the rest of my life.
That's great. That's great, Eric. We definitely appreciate that. Man, I can't believe how quickly we're flying through these shows. Softball season is flying by, high school football is here, NBA playoffs. Before you know it, the NFL will be here. And we'll be here to talk about it even more. So for another great show for the Tulsa World Sports Extra show, I'm Juwan Lee for Eric, Bill, and Barry. We'll see you guys next week.